I'm so the best part about having a podcast is getting to meet the people you're friends with on the internet and like have a valid reason for it, isn't it?
I totally agree. I know when you DM me or like, "You wanna come on the pod?" I'm like, "Do I ever? Let's hang out."
Right? I'm like, let's just like chat. And of course, career coaching so closely aligns with like anything related to money. And it's like,
Yeah,
I feel like we cannot talk about money without also talking about our income. And our income is mostly tied to our careers. So most of the time, I mean, for most of
right.
us.
Yeah, I know, and there was, like, so much I didn't know about and still, to be honest, don't know when you're looking at your benefits and looking at your 401k and, like, all the things that you get from a company, and you don't even realize it, right? The only thing my dad told me I remember was, like, "Just always do whatever gets the most like, the actual match." That's, like, your
Yeah.
number 1, like, just make sure that you get the match and you're good, and so I was like, "Okay, thanks, dad." That was the
Deal.
one piece of advice.
Check.
Check.
Hey,
I
at
don't
least
know what that means, but I was like, "Sure."
yeah, I don't know what a 401k is or what I'm
Yeah.
doing, but yes, I will get that match. Don't you worry.
Mhm.
No,
It's, like,
I get that.
shocking that we don't know that stuff, and I know this is your podcast, but I also just wanna say thank you for what you do because it's like, oh my gosh, like, feeling like it doesn't come from your dad is so much better to hear money talk, so thank
Oh,
you.
for sure. Thank you. And like broken down in a way that actually makes sense and is relevant to you. Because I had the same experience growing up where my parents would always be like, oh, yeah, just pay yourself first. And I'm like, what does that mean? What does
Yeah,
paying
yeah,
yourself first mean? It's like, well, there's money that goes into my account first. Is that what you mean? Am I doing it? So
right.
it's definitely a needed space. So, anyway, before we dive in today, which for those who are tuning in, welcome to the Money Bear podcast. We are talking about money, and today we are specifically talking about career growth, and we're getting tips from a real life career coach. So, let's have you introduce yourself, Darci.
Oh, I get to do it for myself? Okay, let's put me on the spot. Tell me about yourself. It's my favorite
Yeah.
thing to do. Okay, so my name is Darci Smith. I'm a career coach and a recruiter. I own a recruiting business as well. So I got started in the career coaching world because I recruited at a huge agency, didn't know what I was doing, kind of fell into that job. And then I ended up just falling in love with it. I love connecting people with their managers and not so much a job, but like understanding someone and like what their culture is and what they like and don't like and seeing that kind of flourish. And then that led me to writing people's resumes and then helping them prep for interviews. And then at one point I was like, Darcy, you need to be charging for this. So I just started charging. And then here we are 2 years later because social media. And
Hmm.
literally that's how it all happened. I love, love, love what I do. Other than that, I play a lot of pickleball. I played for 2 hours this morning. And that's me in a nutshell.
That's amazing. You're the second person under the age of 60 that I know who plays pickleball. My friend Delianne, the money coach, she also is a big pickleballer now. And every time she says it, it just cracks me up. I'm like,
Yeah.
pickleball? When did
Yeah.
that come? Like, how did you even find a community that does pickleball?
Oh, it's on the rise, baby. It is like the number one. Yeah, for sure. So my mom is a huge pickleballer. Like she plays 8 hours a day, and that's not even a lie. She does 4 hours in the morning, eats lunch, maybe takes a nap, and then goes back to indoor at night for 4 hours every single day. So she
That's
is
amazing.
wild. She's in Florida, retired, all the things.
Fair.
So she was like, you got to play, you got to play. And I'm like, Mom, leave me alone. So then she came out to visit me and was like, oh, we got to find courts. We got to find courts. And so we're like, okay, fine. So then I played and I was freaking hooked. And then I did tournaments and now I'm just all in. So I actually play, it's hilarious. I actually play in the morning. So I go to the gym at 6:30. And then I finish the gym. This is like, I don't know why I'm saying this, but whatever.
I'm living for this.
You're
So
like, I'm
please,
so in
yes.
it.
Mhm.
Okay. So then from there, I go to the pickleball courts around like 7:30 or 8. And then I get to play with like all the retired people, right? It is so much fun. There's a whole group of us. I think there was like 20 to 25 people out today. And we just rotate, courts and playing each other. And they'll be out there till around 11. So I'm usually out there as long as I don't have a call or something. I literally have scheduled my work day to where I can play pickleball until at least 10 a.m. or 10:30.
Okay, that's
So
amazing. And talk about like designing your dream life while
yeah.
still working too. Like, I think there's so much beauty in that because in the FIRE community, which is the financial independent retire early community, there's like this very extreme belief that it's like you get to live your dream life when you retire early, but between here and then, which could be 10 years, it could be 15 years, maybe if you're lucky, it's less than that. You're going to be
Mhm.
working really hard and saving as much as possible, saving 50% of your income, whatever. And it's like, nah, there are varying degrees in between working till you're 65 and retiring in 10 to 15 years. And one of those ways is like how can we incorporate our dream life into the now so
Yeah.
that all the other stuff isn't all consuming and doesn't feel like we're not living our life. So I love that. That's
Yeah.
amazing.
100%. I
Pickleball.
was like, "Why can't I play pickleball for 2 hours every morning?" Like, that just makes sense to me. So,
That
that's what I do, and I'm like, I freaking love it. And then, yeah, I work a little bit extra at night, but to me, totally worth it.
that's amazing. I absolutely adore that. And
Yeah.
you're in LA.
I actually live in Redwood City now, which is like 30 minutes from San Francisco.
I actually, oddly enough, was in Redwood City a couple months ago. That's where I actually
Really?
stayed. Yeah, because Redwood City is close to Palo Alto, right?
Yeah, next door. Mhm.
Yes, because I actually, at the time when I was road tripping across the country with my dog, when I was looking to stay up in San Francisco, I was just disgusted by the prices. I was like, yeah,
Yeah.
I'm not going to do this. Like, it was
Yeah.
like 200 square feet for $2,000 for 10 days, and you couldn't leave your dog there. You had to
Oh
be with
my
your dog at all times. I was like, that's not going to happen. So then I went to Palo Alto / Redwood City. It's really cute up there. I love Northern
Yeah.
California.
Oh, I love it. We should unpack this because I actually traveled for a year in an RV, so I feel like we have a lot to talk about
Yeah,
there.
we knew we would be friends. We knew it.
Right?
We're like,
Right?
we
And
knew we were going to have vibes.
it was literally the best, and funny you should say prices because the RV spot that I had when I was doing the RV, I lived in Morgan Hill, which is, like, just under San Jose. My friends, like, would freak out, but just for the parking spot to have my RV there was 2,500 a month. Yeah,
Holy
just
shit.
there was like, I mean, it was like an RV park, right? So it had a pool and, like, there was a little, like, game room and, I mean, nothing special. It was $2,500 a month. Like, that's more
That's
than most people's rent.
insane. Holy
Yeah.
crap. Yeah, Northern California is like a whole other level. I mean, Southern California is expensive too, but LA is so big that there's something for anybody. Like, you
Mhm.
can find what you need in LA. San
Oh,
Diego's
yeah.
even like, I feel like San Diego is more expensive than LA because there's less options. Like,
Very true.
you just
Mhm.
have like a couple of buildings and then hope it works out. So
Yeah. Is that where
wild.
you are? Are you
Uh,
in San Diego?
So I'm still in my nomad phase, but my
Mm,
nomad phase is parked in my family's house until May because I've got a lot of air travel going on in the next couple of months. And
got
then
it.
I will be heading to San Diego in May. And so I've
Nice.
got a short-term rental there for 3 months. And then if I like it, I'll like go apartment hunting there. And if I
So cool.
don't, and I've been to San Diego before. I love San
Yeah.
Diego. I just don't know if I'm ready to live there or not, just because of the cost of living. But if I don't love it, then I'm going to head to my next favorite spot from the road trip, which was weirdly enough Tucson.
Tucson. Okay.
I
Okay.
love Tucson.
Interesting.
Yes.
Interesting.
So we'll see what happens. We'll see where I end up. But I love Northern
Yeah.
California as well.
Yeah.
So anyway, sidetracked.
Sorry.
What? No, this is what podcasts are for.
I was like, I'm so sorry. I was like, I can keep going. Like, our favorite was Bend. So we actually like
Mm,
manifested. So we were there in 2019. We did a whole like US trip. And then our number one was Bend, Oregon. If you guys haven't been, you
I've
have to go. Like,
So
have
many
to.
people have told me that because I absolutely loved. So my third favorite place was Portland, but not
Mm,
because of
mhm.
Portland. It was because of everything around
The
Portland, like
outskirts. Yeah. Yeah.
all of the hiking and the Oregon coast and all that stuff. So a couple of my friends have recommended I try Bend the next time I'm up there. The reason it
Yeah.
was like Portland worked so well for me is because my sister's in that area. So it's like obviously if I was going to be up there, I'd be near her. But yeah, I heard
Yeah.
amazing things about Bend. Did you? It's really good
Totally.
hiking.
Yeah, yeah, and, like, just because I have to spin this back to money, when I was up there, I was like, "I gotta find a way to get back here, like, I really want to, like, own a place here,"
Yeah,
and so I ended up buying a property in 2021 that's now a functioning Airbnb,
nice.
and yeah, so it's, like, the coolest thing ever. We get to, like, have our friends go up there and enjoy it, and, like, it's literally now what I wanna do with my life is, like, collect
Yay.
properties and just, like, allow my friends to hang out there.
That is so cool. How exciting. Amazing.
Yeah,
Darci, you
yeah,
do so many things. I'm so impressed.
yeah,
Like,
it's
I knew the career coach side of things, and then you're like, oh, and I casually own a recruiting agency. Oh, and I also own property up in Oregon, but I live in California. We're going to unpack this because I want to hear about your journey because this is very impressive. And
yeah.
you're still so young.
Yeah, 31. I
Hell
don't know if
yeah.
yeah, that's young.
Same, also 31. So very cool. Well, I'm excited to talk to you about career stuff. But first, I want to
Mhm.
hear about this journey because
Yeah.
clearly you've had quite the journey. If you started with a recruiting agency, then you started Career Coach Darci. You've also got a podcast that you didn't mention, the Down and
Oh,
Dirty
yes.
podcast, and you own property up in Oregon. There's probably other things besides your pickleball aficionado. So tell me a little a bit about you growing
Yeah,
up. I want to break it down to your
let's
childhood.
go. Oh,
Yeah,
I love it. I just did it with
where
my therapist yesterday. Let's do it again.
that is exactly what I'm here for. So yeah, tell me, like, what was money like for you growing up? What was like your career passions growing up, or what did you think you were going to do? Tell me a little bit about your journey.
Oh, yeah, I love this. Okay, so I grew up in Bakersfield, California, which if you haven't heard of it, it's like the middle of California. A lot of cows and a lot of oil. That's like what we're known for. And so I grew up there. I lived in my same house my entire life until I left for college. My entire identity revolved around sports. So I
Mm,
played soccer. I was a soccer player and a dancer. So I ended up choosing the path of soccer. And my whole goal was just like get to a Division 1 school, get a scholarship so your parents don't have to pay for that. My brother got a scholarship on academics. And so we were kind of just like both on that track of like, let's get to good schools and, help our parents out. I was very lucky, I will say privileged to live in a house where I didn't have to worry too much about money.
mhm.
My dad was the sole provider and he worked for Boeing. So he was an engineer at Boeing. And my mom was a stay at home mom. So I don't even remember a time where like I had a babysitter. My mom was kind of just always there. But I did see a lot of talk about money in a way of like my dad being very frugal. So I just remember always feeling like, oh, like we're not as like wealthy as our friends. Like we never had like the jet skis or the extra little like toys or anything like that. And I think it really led me into just like this thought of you can't have everything, but you can have what you need. And without knowing, I don't think my dad knew like what he was doing to me, but I think it really helped me to not go into debt when I was older and to not just spend frivolously. And like I kind of always had my dad's little frugal mindset in the back of my head. Like even till this day, I have this thing about credit cards where I use credit cards because I love the points, but I pay them
Mhm,
off every single Friday. Like I don't
mhm.
even carry a balance because I just have that like instinct in me. And I've done that since my first credit card. So yeah, so money was always kind of a topic, but never like a sit down. Hey, this is what you should do. This is, like I said, he had the one tip about matching the 401k. so,
Mhm.
so yeah, so that was my like childhood growing up. And then I went to play soccer out in South Carolina, a Division 1 school out there, smaller D1 school, but time of my life. I mean, I still talk about to this day. And my boyfriend's like, can you stop talking about your glory days? I'm like, never, never.
Absolutely.
Um,
You knew what you were signing up for.
Oh my gosh, yeah. Come on. And he just like I always rip on him because like, he didn't go to college. And so I'm always like, "Oh, college was so much fun. It's the best years of your life, all this stuff." So like till this day, he's like, "Man, it's kind of my biggest regret now that I hear how much you loved it." I'm like, "So much fun. I'm gonna make my kids go to college. I
Just
don't
have fun.
care. Literally just to have fun." I'm like, "I'm forcing you just to have fun. I don't care what you do, but just have fun."
I
Um
love that.
yeah, so then I had no idea what I wanted to do with my life. You heard it from me first, career coach. And so what did I do? I went to more school. I got my MBA thinking, yeah, this will tell me exactly what I want to do. No, it will not.
That's
Um,
so many of us, especially
yeah,
millennials. It was like because so many of us graduated like at the tail end of the Great Recession where like things were recovering and they were just starting to recover. So it was like we graduated with these bachelor degrees and nobody wanted us other than to pay us like $14 an hour doing account management. And it's like
right.
so many of us were like, that's too scary. Let me go get my master's and then I'll figure that out later. So I'm excited to hear how that went for you. Clearly, it all worked out.
100%. I feel like I was the odd man out in my MBA program. Everyone was older, everyone
Mhm.
had jobs. I was walking dogs for a living. I was like working like Craigslist jobs, like just to like meet, have rent to pay. But I was
Yeah.
in my era of like, I wasn't quite ready for like the big girl job yet. So I was like just picking up things here and there. I worked like weddings as a like photographer, the booth, the photographer booths. And I would just like get drunk and make people do weird poses. And then, but yeah, I was a dog walker. Like I loved it. And all things, by the way, that went on my resume and helped me get a job. And then I met some amazing people. So I will say, if anyone is thinking about grad school and stuff, use the network. That is like my
Mhm.
biggest thing. It's like, of course, you're going to learn a few things, but really it's the network that helps
And
you.
that's really what you're paying for is that
Yeah.
network. You
Yeah.
can learn a lot on your own, you can learn a lot in your industry, but that network, you're not really gonna get that anywhere else.
No, and like that's what actually led me to owning my own business today. Like shout out
Mm.
Jesse, my best friend from my MBA. He worked at a financial firm and he called me up one day and was like, "Hey, like I know you're a recruiter. This is when I was working at an agency." He's like, "Can you help me recruit?" And I'm like, "Yeah, but like it's not really what we do at my recruiting company. It's kind of a different type of recruiting." He's like, "Just do it on the side." I was like,
Mm.
okay."
You're
And
like,
then I
"Can
was
I
like,
do that?
yeah,
Is
I was
that
like,
allowed?"
interesting thought. And then I was like, maybe I can just do this on my own. Like it was literally, that was the impetus for me being like, I can do
Amazing.
this. Yeah. And that's what led me to start Roklyn, which is my recruiting company. And yeah, yeah, definitely 100% MBA. So, but just to kind of backtrack, after my MBA, still didn't know what I wanted to do. Right. And I kind of just jumped into like literally the first job. I went on one interview and then it ended up being five at that same company, but five interviews, got the job. And I was like, well, this is okay. Guess this is what I'm doing.
Yeah.
It was a company called Centos. You may have heard of them. They're huge. They provide like uniforms and facility services to basically like every company everywhere. And I was a management trainee, got paid $48,000 a year, which looking back, I was like, Darci could have made a lot more coming out of school with an MBA, but I had no idea. Like I said, I had
Right.
dog walking on my resume. So I did that for a while. And then I got right into recruiting after Centos. And that's when I truly fell in love. Like I knew I had a thing with people. I wanted to
Mhm.
just talk to people all day. I was selling the toilet paper. I was selling the stuff at Centos. And I was like, nah, not for me. I was like, let's sell people. That sounds fun. So now I get to like, so I'm like, now I get to sell like people's personalities and
Yeah.
why they're a good fit at a certain company. And I would say half of my recruits, like, they're not even good on paper. They're not the right fit for the job on paper, but I get them the job because I'm like, here's what you need to do to like wow the hiring manager. This makes the most sense because you guys have similar personalities. You're going to love working here. And that's what I love about it. So, yeah. So then here we are. I have a recruiting business. I have my career coaching business, which again started on social media. Let's see. I have the property. I want to do Airbnb. Like that's like the retirement plan, you know?
Mhm.
So I have the Airbnb up in Oregon. I have a podcast called Down and Dirty with Darci that I talk to like people with weird and interesting careers. And I'm just like a yes man. Like I'm like, let's just do it until I can't. I have this thing where I believe in and. So instead
Mm.
of like, can I do this or that? It's like, no, what if it's and? Like, what if I can do it and also do
Mhm.
this?
Yeah, that's
Until I
very
in
like improv of you. Yes, and.
yes, and yeah,
Mhm.
until
Mhm.
I can't, right? Until I have to say no. And I haven't yet. I mean, there's obviously things I've said no to, but like not yet. Like I'm like, let's just ride the train and then see what happens. And if I'm my biggest thing is like if I'm ever unhappy, I can always pivot or change and like who cares? No one's like worried about what I'm doing, you know? Like if all of a sudden
Yes.
I want to just stop career coaching, like, okay, like
Mhm.
whatever.
Well, you've developed this like this essentially toolbox of skills and experiences that make you so versatile. And the fact too that like all of your skills, what you're talking about, I wrote it down when you said you're like, yeah, they're not good on paper, but I'm still able to like help them get the job because so much of what we do is not, or so much of what we are successful in isn't because of like the technical skills or these like really in-depth things that we think we have to have in order to succeed. And it's like most of the time you got to have the soft skills. You got to be
Right.
likable. You
Right.
got to be like a
Mhm.
good conversationalist. You got to have like all of these things that then translate into other opportunities. So I love that you're just like, yeah, I just take it and I roll with it and then I see what happens because I feel like that's what not only is necessary as a business owner because things are changing all of the time, but I also just
Right.
think that's a fun approach to life.
100%. Yeah. Like my motto is like, just have fun in whatever I'm doing. So I'm
Mhm.
like, if I'm not having fun anymore, then that's when I say, okay, no, I'm done, you know?
Yeah, yeah,
Like,
100%. And my journey is also similar to yours with the money coaching thing. Is like you fell into it. You're like, yes, and let me try this. Let me just see what happens. Same thing is like I was posting my budget online for like a year and a half, 2 years, just
mhm,
showing everybody. Nobody cared. Nobody was listening. I was just sharing what my budget was every single month and just like talking about the mistakes. And then this woman who owns Mac and Cheese Productions, which is essentially what you're talking about. Her
mhm,
whole motto is life of yes. And it's like, yes, I'm just going to say
mhm.
yes to the thing. I'm going to figure it out and I'm going to roll with it. And
Yeah.
yes to designing the life you want, like essentially all those things. Anyway, she reached out to me and she was like, hey, I think you have a skill and I would really like you to teach it at a class called I Can't Budget. And I was like, yeah, I don't
Let's
know how to
go.
do that, but like, yeah, let's do it. And then from that class, everybody or several people wanted to work with me one on one and I was like, I guess I'm a money coach now. I don't know. But it's because I took that opportunity before I ever had a chance to talk myself out of it. And it's like
Right.
that's what you
Right.
got to do. And if you want a life that is designed for you by you, I feel like that's so much of it is just saying yes to stuff and figuring out what you like.
Literally, this is a fun story. My first client for career coaching, because I started the Instagram page like literally from zero. I told myself I'm going to go all in with it. And so I
Mhm.
actually hired a coach who was like $2,000 a month. Like literally, that's so much money.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, I'm just going to go all in. I'm going to do what he says. He's obviously done this for other people. And it was like having someone hold your hand. It's almost like, you know what you're supposed to do at the gym, but it's like nice when you just pay someone to tell you what to do.
Yep.
So it was perfect. So like, he just kind of told me like, hey, stay on this track, do this. He would check like my Instagram every, week. Like, what are we doing right? What are we doing wrong? And then I was getting a tattoo, and I was telling my tattoo artist like all about like kind of my new thing and like what I'm trying on social media. And he's like, my daughter, like she's 15. She really needs like some confidence and some help. Like she's going on an interview for like an ice cream shop. And he's like, can I pay you to like do it? And I had nothing set up, no website, nothing yet. And I was like, yeah, let's do it. And so I did a Zoom with her for $100, and just, it was my first client, and it was the coolest
I
thing
love
ever.
that.
Yeah.
That's amazing. I love that you started with a 15-year-old. That's so cute.
Yeah.
But it's also like, again, like it's literally just accepting the opportunities as they come rather than being like,
Mhm.
well, I don't have a website. I don't have these things.
Right.
Sorry, maybe in a
Don't have
couple of
this like
months.
laid out yet. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think
Yeah.
that's where so many of us like get trapped. So I want to talk about it in the career sense. So wait, that was the transition into career coaching. What was the connection between recruiting and career coaching? Did I miss that?
Yeah, so I was working at a company called Athletes to Careers. Still have great things to say about them. They are a recruiting agency, smaller boutique. They work with former athletes and former like professional athletes and help them get
Mhm.
jobs when they're done with athletics. So I use them, and that's how I got the interviews with Cintas. And then that's how I stayed connected, and then basically asked for a job later on in life and was like, "Hey, I want to work here. How do I do it?" So then I was there for 3 years, and I was just kind of like feeling this like urge to do something on my own. And so I was like, I told my boss, I was like, "Hey, is this a conflict of interest? If it is, I won't do it. But like, I really want to start this Instagram page where I'm like, because there's so many people that come to me that I couldn't help because they weren't in our niche. And I was like, but I still could write their resumes or still help them with something. So I'm like, I'm just gonna side hustle it and do like $100. I think I was charging like $40 for resume, like
Mhm.
rewrites, which is unbelievable because it's like $800 if you go online right now. So it was just like, I was just kind of doing that. And then I remember distinctly like one of the VP of the company like called me, and he was like, "How are you ever going to make this a real thing?" He was like, "Charging $100, like what do you think you're going to do? Like how is this going to work?" And I was like, "I don't know, John. I'm just going to freaking make it work, okay?"
Yeah, I'm helping people. Also, screw you. Fuck
Uh,
off.
yeah, I was like, I literally said, I was like, "I don't know yet, but I'm just like it feels right. I'm just going to do it. I don't know."
Yeah.
I don't know. It was just kind of like, but I'll never forget that moment because I was like, "Oh hell yeah, I'm going to do it." And so
It's
yeah,
like
just
he
kind
made
of
you
like
double down. He's like, "Oh yeah, you don't
yes.
think I can do this?
Yeah.
You don't think I can? Fuck you. I'm gonna do it."
Made me double down for sure.
Yeah.
And funny enough, he was like copying my content, like still to this day. But shout out, John. I love you. I'm just kidding. Huh. But I'm not kidding because he did steal my content. And I had to text him and be like, hey, that was like a copy and pasted caption. And he was like, oh, sorry. So yeah,
Holy shit.
it's
Oh
a
my
fun
god.
full circle. So anyway, so then I was doing that and it started to build. And then I finally was like, I was obviously building my recruiting business as well because I was doing that on the side. So I'm like, I told my boss, I was like, hey, like, I'm really happy here. I had a great experience, but like, I'm just ready to do my own thing. And like, they're entrepreneurs, right? So they're going to be supportive. And they're like, yeah. And like, I think in the back of their minds, they're like, she'll be back or like, yeah,
Mhm.
we'll see, whatever. And yeah, it's been over 2 years and, killing the game. So that's how it all
Hell,
happened. So
that's
I kind of
amazing.
did simultaneously, I would say, started the recruiting company and then started the career coaching company because I definitely felt that conflict of interest of like, I'm not going to start my own recruiting company as I'm at a recruiting company. That was weird. So I
Mhm.
started with the career coaching. So I did
Mhm.
that for like 6 months as I was like building the website and kind of starting things for the recruiting business. And even to this day, like I've placed people with my recruiting business, but I've just grown so much with my career coaching that it's like I'm having this hard like battle within myself of like, I'm doing 2 full-time jobs. And I'm
Yeah.
like, okay, at some point I need to really just lean in to one of them. And I really think I know it's going to be the recruiting business. It's really like where my passions lie. And so that is, I actually just hired a coach because I'm a big believer in coaches. Just joined a coaching program for a full year where I am in it 100% with all these other recruiting firms that started from zero, right? And just learning from everybody. So, yeah.
That's so cool. I love that you're like,
Yeah.
yeah, this career coaching thing has taken off and it's gone, really well. But if your passion lies in recruiting, your passion lies in
Mhm.
recruiting, and that's what, yeah, you've got to lean in eventually.
Yeah, and like I think I can always help people like on social media and it's free and like I want to do that. Like I can
Yeah,
always be making videos that are going to help people and like the bulk of people, right, don't pay me for what I do. They just watch my
right.
videos, which totally fine with that. So I think I'll forever do that and just be a resource for people.
Hmm.
But yeah, the goal is the
Well,
recruiting business.
and sometimes that's all something needs to be is like this fun thing that you do that
Yeah.
helps people, but also the way that you're bringing in money is like is through the recruiting. It's like that gets to be your passion and it doesn't have to have the pressure on it to like pay for your bills. So I get
Exactly.
that fully and
Yeah.
completely. That is so cool. So I want to give people tips, obviously. We're here for that. I'm trying to think of how I even want to organize those questions because career coaching, I'm sure you run into a lot of different things, whether it's like the
Yeah.
resume or presentation skills or being able to even identify what people want. In your experience with your clients, what's like the number one thing people are coming to you for in the career coaching side of things right now?
Yeah, so 3 things. So to put it into like a process, number 1 is clarity around what they want to do next. I feel like that's the hardest thing is they know they're unhappy. They know they want to get out of their job, but they have no idea what their skills align with. And so I help them clarify exactly what those transferable skills are and how they like, can take that into a different industry or to a different job or whatever the case. And it's almost like a confidence building exercise of like, oh, I can do that and I don't have to apply to something where I meet 100% of the requirements. Like there's actually statistics out there that females specifically do not apply to jobs if they don't meet at least 80% and males will do it with like 20%. It's like
Mm-hmm.
insane. So like I help people to understand that and be like, "No, I'm good enough for this job. I'm going to apply to it." And then also the strategy behind that, right? So it's you can't just expect to when you don't meet the requirements be able to get the job, right? So there's definitely strategies that I go over like how to network with the right people, like how to get your name out there. The second thing is always interview prep. So I do mock interviews. So for the full hour, I will act as your interviewer. You send me the job description beforehand. I ask you very specific questions about the job. I also do like the general ones, like what's your biggest strengths, what's your biggest weaknesses, give you full feedback. And then the third thing, which this is probably my favorite, is either negotiating a salary. So it's like you got an offer and like, let's talk through how you're going to negotiate your salary, or someone that's they're at a job, they enjoy it, but they're feeling like they really want to ask for a raise. So they'll hire me to help them break down exactly what needs to happen for them to do that.
Love it. Those are such high value items. Like seriously, I love that so much. Folks, I kind of want to break down each one and ask a question on each in terms of like tips and things like that.
Yeah.
Like so for transferable skills. This is like I feel like even in what I do, people will still talk to me about my career and they'll be like, "Well, how did you go from an English degree to a fundraising assistant to a communications and projects manager to like all of these things?" And it's like I had to recognize what applied, how
Hmm.
fundraising requires really good communication skills and how communication skills are directly related to project management and things along those lines. For
Hmm.
you, like how do you help people see what are those transferable skills? Like how do you uncover that?
Yeah. So I just, like I did it yesterday with someone, I just ask a lot of questions. I
Mhm.
ask them, like, I start with like the stuff that gets them talking. So, like, what do you like to do outside of work? Let's just chat, whatever. And then I'm like, okay, here's a scenario. You are in an organization where there's changes happening in management and you're not being assigned a new manager. You're kind of just being thrown to the wolves, like, don't know what you're going to do. How do you handle that?
Mm,
And then when they
mhm.
tell me what they would do, I can start to pinpoint like you are really great at communication because you decided that you were going to like step up and talk to the next boss in charge, have a conversation. Or you decided you were going to be the leader, right? You're like, I'm going to step up, take on this ownership, blah, blah, blah. Or you're a problem solver. You tell me, okay, I actually went back to my house and I wrote out all the things that could happen and then scenarios. And then I plan out what, and then I'm like, dude, like that is a problem solver. And then it's like these aha moments where they're like, oh, I can attach actual skills and buzzwords that you hear in an interview to the things that I'm saying to you. And it's just like scenario based. So I just do that over and over until it starts to really stick. And then they are feeling like, I am a problem solver. Yeah, that makes so much sense. Or I am a great communicator. Or some people are like, fuck that. I don't ever want to communicate with anybody. Like they realize it, right? And they're like, that's why I hate my job because I have to freaking talk to these dumb engineers. Like they get it.
Yeah.
So
No,
it's
that's
like,
so revealing. That's so cool.
yeah.
That's like the system and you how you do it. Because also, to be fair, that's like the kind of questions people are going to ask in interviews anyway. And so
Mhm.
to be able to like really walk through them and reveal to them, you're almost like a therapist. I mean,
Oh, yeah.
building
Oh, yeah,
confidence, revealing things
100%.
about them that they don't even know. I mean, it's so true though. I love that. That's so cool.
Amount of people that cry in my sessions, like, I can't.
Well, I can only imagine. We all
Yeah.
know the job hunt process fucking sucks. And like
Mm-hmm.
it makes you feel like you're worthless, like you have no skills, especially if you're in that gray area of not knowing what you're good at, not knowing like how any of your skills are going to apply to something else. I experienced that a lot when I was leaving China. So I used to teach English in China. And when I
Mm-hmm.
was leaving China, I was like, I don't have any skills. I'm a teacher. Teachers don't have skills, which asterisk
Yeah.
here. Teachers have so many soft skills. They have so many
So
transferable
many.
skills.
So
But
many.
but like you feel so down on yourself, and I can only imagine the relief and validation it brings to be able to sit down and talk to an expert who's like, look at all these skills. Let me show you
Mm-hmm.
all these incredible skills that you have. So very cool. And
100%.
is there like a certain type of person you see coming in for that help a lot? Like somebody who's specifically a teacher or a nurse or like a highly specialized industry
Mm-hmm.
trying to transfer out is what I would imagine you would get a lot of, but was just curious.
Yeah, I would say it's a lot of pivots, right? Especially through COVID and stuff. I think teachers really got hit very hard and realized, like, wow, I'm not being respected. So, yeah, so I've had a lot of teachers that I've helped get jobs, and I'm not going to say it's easy. It's not easy, but there's ways to do it, and you can do it 100%. And I
Mhm.
think anyone like it's just feeling like that. I've started this track of this. I work in construction. That's just who I am. That's what I do. Or I work in the arts, or I've only ever worked at like a music venue, or like, I don't know. It's like you get in these little lanes and it's frustrating because you can't see yourself outside of that lane. And not only that, but you don't even know what's outside of that lane. And that's where I'm
Mhm.
like, I've worked with so many different types of people and different jobs that I've been exposed to that I'm like, I can tell you about these jobs that like you've never even heard of, but you would fit so well in based on the skills you're telling me. So the amount
Right.
of people that are like, I'll get emails. They're like, here's my resume. Can you tell me what I could do next? And I'm like, well, you can pay me for a session and then I'll tell you. But yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
But yeah, it's like that's kind of like what people are wondering, like, what can I do next? Because
Oh, so true.
I, yeah,
And I mean, growing up, it's not like when people ask you as you're growing up as a child, like, what do you want to be when you grow up? It's not like there's all these nuanced roles that people describe. Like, oh, did you know you could be a fundraiser or an account manager or a project manager?
right.
No, it's like, I want to be a baker or a
Yeah.
princess or a baseball player. You know, it's like these very like
Doctor,
idealized.
lawyer.
Exactly, like things that are easily put into boxes, but
Yeah.
it's so true. I mean, especially in the United States, we really wrap our identity in what we do. And so,
Oh,
like,
yeah.
transitioning out, even if you're miserable, can feel
Mhm.
so terrifying, especially if you put money towards that education. So, doing the Lord's work out here. Um, so the next sector of like what you focus on, you said was interview prep. And
Mhm.
what would you say is like the number one issue you see when folks are interviewing or who are coming in without that confidence?
Yeah, I mean, the number one end all be all, like where people mess up on interviews is not giving examples. That's
Mm,
it. It's as easy as that. When ask you what your biggest strength is and you say communication, I'm like, sick, cool. Like, can you tell me more? Like, so that's what happens though, is they just broadly state what they're good
mm,
at or what they do. And it doesn't really hit home. You got to give real life examples of a time you communicated, therefore it created success. So every single time you say something, it should be followed up with to give you an example, and then you would like go into an
mm,
example, or like just to clarify, and then just kind of like keep going into it. Or I took the initiative to do this. Like I always tell people, these transition sentences like save your life. So if you just like get a little repertoire of that going, it just becomes so natural because you can always put something behind it. It's going to hold way more weight. They're going to remember you because they're like, oh yeah, the girl that talked about that project she was on or the whatever, right? And so that's the biggest, it's that, and then not asking questions. If you end
mm.
an interview and you're like, they say to you, any questions for me? And you're like, no, I think I'm good. Like that is an immediate, I'm not calling you back. Like 100%. If you're not showing interest, if you're not prepared with questions, like that shows me so many things that even if you internally are like, I really don't have any questions, right? Like I don't really care. I just kind of need a job. I get it. No big deal. But just at least ask some questions to show that you came prepared and
Mhm.
you can literally take them out of your notebook and be like, yeah, I actually wrote some down. That's totally fine. People ask me that all the time. Can I bring my questions in? Yeah, we love that. Bring them in. Bring them all
Amazing.
in.
Yeah, and it's
Tell
simple
me you'll
things.
email them to me. Like if you have more, I would love that.
Yeah, well, because
Yeah.
it is. It's showing interest, it's showing that you care, it's showing that you're invested. Like, if
Yeah.
you aren't
Yeah.
invested, you're not gonna ask any questions, so that makes a lot of sense, and I love the thing about examples
Mhm.
because it's storytelling. It's
Yeah.
essentially telling a story about who you are and how you handle things, even if they're not asking for examples. That's such a
Right.
good piece of advice.
I
I love
I
that.
have this theory that like people that are good at public speaking or good in a the people that you're in a crowd and they can hold the crowd. Not necessarily a public speaking, but even just like a friend's dinner. It's like 5 people, but they're the one that can
Absolutely.
keep the convo going.
Mhm.
That is the person that's going to crush an interview because there's something about and it's unfortunate because you could be really good for the job and the job has nothing to do with communication, but
Yeah.
in an interview you have to be a good communicator. So like I feel for those people and that freaking sucks, but that's why you got to practice it even more than the people that are natural at it. And I feel like that's where my confidence came from was like I've always kind of been that person in a group of like I'm fine with like the awkward silence, but I'm always the one that can drum up the next combo.
Mhm.
And I've just always told myself, you're an amazing public speaker. I've never even thought that I couldn't be. I've just been like, yeah, you're great at it, blah, blah. And like people ask me, like, how did you get good at it? I'm like, I never even had the thought in my mind that I wasn't good at it. Like, I don't even
Mhm.
know what does that mean? Like, I don't know.
Ah, that's
So I'm
so
like,
cool. I love that,
yeah.
and I relate, same thing. It's like, I can remember all the way back to, like, 4th grade and going up and, like, having to do, like, a presentation, and I remember the guy who I was, like, dating in 4th grade coming up to me and being like, "How did you do that?" And I was like, "What do you mean?" And he's like, "How did you
Yeah.
just, like, go up there and be yourself?" I was like, "What other options did I
Yeah.
have?"
Yeah. I guess I was lucky that no one was telling me like, "Oh, you're supposed to be nervous," or "That's a scary thing to do." It's like, of course I felt that like jittery, but to me I was like, "That's excitement." I didn't even like
Yeah.
I didn't know what like anxiety was when I was a kid, I guess, which like best thing of my life because then I discovered it, right? And then that's a whole nother therapy session. But yeah, ignorance is bliss in some ways. It's like I kind of like the people that are just like dumbly confident. Is
Oh,
that
yeah, because it's like, what, was I supposed to be bad at it? Was I like,
right?
what was I supposed
Right.
to do? No, I
It's like the
love.
what? Like it's hard, like that, the Elwood's comment.
Yes. Oh, 100%. Like, was it
Yeah.
supposed to be hard? And also, I feel like that too, having that athletism, being an athlete, playing in high pressure situations. I mean, being a D1 athlete, those are like crushingly like heavy pressure, like the start of the like game or whatever. I
Mhm.
imagine that also really leads to a different level of confidence that
Yeah.
maybe not a lot of us have. Or if like we're not in performing or theater or something along those lines, I could see that.
Right, right. I mean, athletics, of course, is like there's so many things, right? There's like the teamwork aspect, and like
Mhm.
there's going to be people on your team that you don't like or that you do like, and you have to get along with different people. So there were so many things that I could pull from, and that's what I did in my interviews when I first started when I didn't have any experience. I tell people all the time, like use whatever you got. If it's not
Yeah.
athletics, I bet you it's something like volunteer work, or if it's school projects, like anything you can pull from. Use the things that again are transferable into work life. I just remember like in my interviews, every single thing related back to soccer. And I would tell the interviewer, I'm like, this is going to be back to soccer again. I'm like, I'm going to bring this back to soccer again every time. And he would just like laugh. And I'm like, but I swear it's going to parallel. And then he's like, yeah, that was actually a great answer. Like, I
And
just
it's
remember.
memorable. Yeah, that's the thing
Yeah.
is that's so memorable. And I remember,
Mhm.
gosh, I think this was when we were applying for jobs in China, and they were like, put anything down, like put stuff down, because in China, hundreds, if not thousands, of people are applying for the same job, and
Mhm.
you have to have something that the person who is hiring connects with you on. And so it'd be
Mm.
like they would ask for like your hobbies and interests and things like that on a resume. And it's like if somebody is looking at two identical resumes and they see this person played piano and they also played piano, they're
Yeah.
probably going to pick that person over the person who has an identical resume but has never played piano. So it's like it does make sense to include those things. And you had mentioned that earlier when you were like, yeah, I did the dog walking, I did all these different things, and you still included those on your resumes. Is that why, or was it to show like you're a go-getter, you're going to do what it takes to make things work? What was your reasoning?
100% the go-getter thing.
Yeah.
I tell people this all the time, like, once you have experience and stuff, then obviously you can kind of leave the side hustle jobs out. But like even recently I worked with someone who was like, I don't know what to do. I have a career gap. I traveled for a year. I haven't been working and like, I feel like no one's giving me a shot. I'm like, did you pick up any odd jobs while you were traveling? She's like, oh yeah, all the time. That's how I like lived. And I'm like,
Hmm.
why isn't that on your freaking resume, dude? And
Mm.
so we like put all of these things and we put it into one little bucket, obviously, so it doesn't look like it's just like a bunch of jobs, but it's a bucket of like freelance work. And I have all these things that I was picking up and doing because again, I'm like hustling and I'm doing, and it's like those are places you can gain skills. Like I would use my dog walking as an example because I met clients through dog walking that would trust me so much that I was then their house. Like I would watch their house when they were gone for a week. Like, and I
Yes.
would give those examples because it's like, that's showing that like you're loyal, right? So it's like whatever you can spin it back to, that's the point, is spinning it back to like a buzzword or a big skill.
100%. That's so cool. I love that. And also, like, even when I was hiring for, like, back in my 9 to 5, and I was hiring for somebody to replace my old job, I would really look for the people who had that extra level of initiative of like,
Hmm.
I'm gonna go out there and do the thing. Even if it doesn't seem like relevant, it was easy for me to pick out somebody who's willing to go above and beyond than
Hmm.
somebody who is like, just here's my resume. I'm not
100%.
excited about this.
Like, oh my gosh, if I could give any advice, it's if you are a server, if you've ever served, ever bartended, anything in the service industry, if that is not on your resume, like literally to press pause, go put it on your resume right now, come back, listen, but go do that right now because every single hiring manager I worked with loved servers, loved. And I have clients that are like, oh yeah, I used to serve in college. I just like took it off my resume. I'm like, why? I served at IHOP for literally 4 months. That shit stayed on my resume forever.
Well, people
Forever.
don't realize. They think like, "Oh, this will make me look less professional," or,
Right.
"Oh, this will
No.
make me seem like, whatever." But that's such a good point. I mean, servers are a different kind of person.
Everyone knows how
And
hard it is. Everyone.
yep,
It doesn't
yep,
matter who you are. You have interacted with a server on some level and you know how difficult that job is. And if
yep.
you don't respect that, then fuck you and you aren't going to be the manager I want to work with anyway. So that's another like good sign, If they don't
So true.
respect that, then there you go.
Yes,
Yeah.
I love it. Oh my gosh. I feel like I could talk to you about this stuff all freaking day. I love this stuff.
Yeah.
Okay, I have one more question in relation to this stuff. And you had
Mhm.
mentioned negotiations coaching. And
Mm.
I'm sure you run into a wide variety of situations and things along those lines. But what is your biggest tip for going into negotiations
Mhm.
as either negotiating your current role to try and get your new salary, whatever it is,
Yeah.
or on a new position when you are at that stage with that interview?
Yeah, it's evidence. You have to have evidence, and it can't just be because of inflation, my rent went up, like I'm having a family. It can't be personal. It needs to be evidence that you have done, whether it's in your previous work, life, I mean, literally anything. It can sound small to you because you're like, well, that's just my life. That's just what I do. But anything written down on paper just becomes way more like I call it Disney moving it up. Like I'm always like, make it a Disney movie, make it like so much more than what you see it as because you're thinking like I've done that thing. It's just like part of my life, whatever. No,
Mhm.
like this is an obstacle you've had to overcome. Let's write it down. Let's talk through why you deserve more money because you've been through this, you've done that, right? So yeah, if there's anything I can say, it's you're going to be way more respected. You're going to have way more leverage. If you literally walk in with a physical sheet of paper, hey, I put this together because thank you so much for the opportunity. I'm excited about this position. It's definitely somewhere I want to work. I was hoping to be, and then state whatever it is, right? At $60,000 instead of the 50 that was offered. I've brought in some reasons as to why. This is
Mhm.
what I've done. Here's my skills, blah, 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 right? Examples, like very specific examples, not just like, I'm a hard worker. Like, no, not going to work. So, very specific examples. And then you just like stop talking after that. Like, the biggest thing about negotiating is like you can't overtalk. So, just say
Mm.
what you want and say, hey, I brought this in. If you want to go over it, ask me any questions about it. I'm happy to, but I want to be at $60,000. Stop talking.
And then shut up.
Yeah. Say what they say. Yeah.
I love that. And
Exactly.
that's so true. I mean, even when thinking about like within most of my negotiations have been in a job that I was already in. I was negotiating a promotion. But I just remember the most logical thing to me at the time was like, I'm just going to bring in data. I'm going to show
Yeah.
all the shit that I have done outside of my job description, all the things that I have increased revenue on, all the things like bring in the data. And I tell my boyfriend that now as he's like navigating the workforce as well and getting promotions and things like that. I'm like, write that down. Put that in that sheet. Put it in there.
Have a
And like,
Google Doc. Like
yes.
literally everyone should have a Google Doc. They just like a running Google Doc. They just keep forever and ever.
Mhm.
And screenshot that shit. Screenshot the CRM you work in right now. Screenshot anything that you have because I have a client that just booked me because she got laid off and she was like, I don't have anything. I didn't screenshot like my numbers. So I have to like
Mm,
memorize them from memory. And I'm like, and that like you don't have proof. So like
yeah.
screenshot the like dashboards that you see when you like if you're in sales, right? You have those little like buckets and stuff on the CRM that show you completed something or hit a certain quota. Screenshot it, save it to your Google Doc, forever and ever.
I love that. And it's so easy
Yeah.
now. Like you have
Mhm.
Google Docs that travel with you everywhere. So I love that. Bring the data. As my business coach always says, bring the data, not the drama.
Oh, I like that.
Way to call me out, but okay. Awesome. I mean, this is so many good tips. I love this. And like, honestly, I feel like this just highlights how important it is to hire someone if you are lost, because it's
Mhm.
not like we know this stuff innately. Like some of us don't have the privilege of being able to talk to coworkers or have the access to a mentor, things like that. And so if you don't, hiring a career
Yeah.
coach, I mean, it's amazing stuff. Now, I know you can't help everybody, but for
Yeah.
people who are looking to work with you or, connect with you, tell us where they can find you. Give
Yeah.
us all the things.
Yeah, of course. I mean, my face is probably plastered all over your phone because I'm on TikTok and Instagram. Everything as it is Career Coach Darci. So careercoachdarci.com, Career Coach Darci, it's Darci. And then my newest and latest project is the Down and Dirty podcast, which I'm so, so proud of. It's in combination with Onomy, which you've
Mhm.
also worked with Onomy. It's amazing. I interview people from like magicians to, I just had someone on that works at the Forum, like in the music industry, and just did like the Harry Styles tour, and like just all different walks of life and how they got into it. And it's so inspiring. So yeah, so I would just like love if you would check that out.
That's so
And yeah, that's
cool.
it. Yeah.
Awesome. I love it. All right. One final question for you before I let you go, but this is a fun one. It's not a hard one.
Okay.
Um, what is your very first money memory?
Oh my gosh. Very first money memory. Okay. It's like coming to me right now, but I had a pink piggy bank as a kid.
Like
Yeah.
the
Like
like
a
classic.
proper, it was like it could break because it was like that porcelainy, and it was
Mhm.
classic and it would sit on my like brown dresser. I can like totally envision it. And I used to get so excited. My dad would give me $2 bills because I thought they were so cool. And so I'd
Mhm.
like roll them up and like put them in there. And then obviously like any change I could find. But that, and then in I think it was fifth and sixth grade, me and my best friend Morgan, we would go around to like our family's couches and like take all the like loose change and recycling and stuff and take it in, and we would like make money from it. And then we saved so much money that we bought walkie-talkies so we could talk to each other because we were like neighbors.
That's
So
so
yeah, that's
cute.
like the coolest thing I've ever done. I was like, Dad, can you drive me to Target? We're gonna buy walkie-talkies with all the money that we made over like I think they were like $20, and it was like months of us saving for
That
that.
is so cute. Like what an
Yeah.
innocent early memory of money. I love that.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
money is a tool and you knew how to work that tool. What'd you do with all your $2 bills? Are you still saving them?
No, I don't still save them, but I think aren't they like pretty like cool? Like, aren't you supposed to save them?
I
Yeah.
mean, I think you are. I know I have $2 bills somewhere.
Yeah.
That's why I was
Yeah.
like, where did you do with yours? Because I don't know what I
No,
did with mine.
once I like realized I could buy things, I was like, I'm spending whatever I
You're
have.
like, bye, $2. Nobody cares.
Totally. Yeah, exactly. I was like, that's just another vessel to buy me more walkie-talkies to hang out with my
Exactly.
friends.
That's really what it's for. That's what it's
Yeah.
for. Oh my gosh, awesome. I love it. Well, thank you so much for coming on today.
Yeah.
I learned a ton. I really enjoyed talking to you about this stuff. I could talk about this stuff till my face turns blue. So thank
Yeah.
you. And it's good to officially meet you.
Right. Thanks so much for having me. I just looked at the time. I cannot believe it's been that long. Like, I'm
I
like,
know.
wait, it was like 20 minutes? No, it's like, wow, that's crazy.
Yeah, it flew by. Thank you so much for listening to the Money Bear podcast. If you've made it this far, do us a favor, take 2 seconds, rate, review, and subscribe. It seriously means the world to me. And if you just take a sec to do that, I will appreciate you endlessly. And if you do, let me know on Instagram and I'll thank you personally. So, got that. And of course, since we were talking about anything financial on this show, please note that nothing on this show is intended as financial advice. I don't know you, unfortunately. And because of that, I cannot tell you what to do with your money. You got to work with a financial professional who knows your situation, who is preferably a fiduciary. And keep in mind that everything that we talk about on this podcast is for education and entertainment purposes only. It's all my opinion. So, there's that. If you want to see our full terms and conditions, head on over to the show notes. And while you're there, we've got free resources for you to get started on your money journey down in the show notes as well, including a free guide to help you with your budgeting templates and budgeting tutorials and investing 101, understanding the different accounts that are out there. All that good stuff is inside of my free guide, which is also available at thelazyinvestorscourse.com/guide. And if you're ready to take our relationship to the next level, Also, I've got a free investing class that is available at thelazyinvestorscourse.com/webinar. We host it once a month. It is live. Elevate, if you could remove the part where my dog is scratching her neck. So, if you're ready to take our relationship to the next level, I am also hosting a monthly investing class. And that investing class, you can find the times we're offering it this month at thelazyinvestorscourse.com/webinar. That link is in the show notes as well. And that's where you have the chance to meet me live and ask those money questions live. It's a good time. We've had over 20,000 people as of recording this join or register. And yeah, it's always nice to meet you guys. So I hope to see you there. Again, all that is available down in the show notes. So thank you again for coming and listening. I appreciate you, and I'll see you next week.